All right, let's talk about gene-edited food. Sounds spooky to me. Could the future of cheaper groceries start in a lab? Many say gene editing technology could help produce food that's more nutritious, less expensive, slower to spoil. It could potentially save Canadian households hundreds of dollars a year in wasted food. And researchers also say the technology could help farmers cut back on costly pesticides, reduce crop losses caused by disease and extreme weather. But there's a lot of concern. People hear the words gene edited, they're not happy about it. Let's go to Dr. Chris Labos. He's a cardiologist, has a degree in epidemiology. He tackles these types of stories all the time, and you can hear him, of course, on Sundays on Weekends with Joanne Vrakas. Hey, Dr. Labos. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Not too bad, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. So when you hear gene-edited food, do you go, ooh, scary, or are you open to this? Tell me more.
Well, I think tomato, because we have been gene editing our food since antiquity. Like, we forget that we have been modifying our foods ever since agriculture became a thing. It's just that up until now, we've been doing it in a very sort of random, almost haphazard fashion, right? You crossbreed two plants, you wait to see what the result is, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. And so I bring up the tomato because the tomato is a fascinating story. The tomato is actually not native to Europe. So imagine that for most of its history, Italy and Greece did not have access to tomatoes or tomato sauce. It was imported to Europe from America once the Spanish first entered into South America. And at the time, the tomato was this small, almost cherry-like fruit that was so bitter that most people thought it was unpalatable. And it was only through crossbreeding and genetic modification that it became the staple that we have now. So we have been changing and genetically modifying our food forever, and nobody had a problem with it. It's only now that it's happening in I would think, a much more precise and sort of goal-focused manner that people are worried about it, because when you were talking about breeding plants, that's something people understand, that you can see it, you can do it yourself, you have control over it. Whereas when stuff happens in a lab, because it's outside of our control, it's inherently scary. It's why people are more afraid of flying than driving, because you don't control the plane, whereas you feel like you're in control in your car, even though statistically driving is actually much more dangerous than getting on a plane.
Is another part of this that, big corporations, and often, right, technology and innovation comes via big corporations. Some people believe, there's got to be ulterior motives. If a big old corporation wants to change the genes in our food, there must be something nefarious up. Do you think that's part of the issue here?
I think that's part of it. I think it's been the plot point in many a science fiction movie, which has made people scared. And it's also, there is a valid argument or a valid concern to be had about who's going to control the seeds of these plants. Part of the reason why Monsanto became the boogeyman that it was not so much because of its Roundup pesticide, although that was part of it, but it was also because it was one of the first companies to introduce a subscription model to its seeds. So it was trying to convince farmers, if you want to buy our seeds, you have to sign a contract to a 10-year deal where you keep buying seeds from us on a yearly basis. Now, we've become used to the idea of subscription models, from our streaming services to Microsoft Office to, what have you. But at the time, it was a little bit shocking. And this idea that you're going to be sort of locked into a contract, like this is our proprietary product, you must buy it from us on an unlimited basis, is very different than the way most people think about agriculture, which is I can plant tomatoes in my backyard if I want to. And so there's going to be an interesting question to be had against patent rights, because nobody can patent a tomato, but you can patent your particular brand of tomato if you genetically modified it and created it in a lab. So there's going to be a very interesting patent argument to be sort of, threshed out in the courts.
Well, why don't you take us through what could be unlocked here? Maybe some different foods, or the ways we could change certain plants to end up with higher crop fields and more people fed. Let's go through that.
Well, it's exactly what you said in the introduction, right? You can make a plant bigger, faster, stronger. $6 million man reference right there. But this is what we've always been doing. You want to make plants that are more drought resistant. You want to make plants that are more resistant to pests and to bugs and to pathogens, because plants get sick like the rest of us. So in theory, you could modify plants to make them not necessarily grow bigger and faster, although that would be ideal, but just to be more resistant, so you wouldn't have to spend as much water to make them grow. They would be resistant to certain blights that typically affect plants. The danger, though, is that if you start to make all the plants too similar, they actually become more susceptible to pests. So historical reference, get ready, the Great Potato Famine that happened in Ireland happened because when we started cultivating potatoes in Europe, which again are also a South American import to Europe, before, potatoes used to come in many different varieties. But because one particular brand of potato became the common and preferred staple product in Europe, everybody was planting the same type of potato. And so potatoes essentially became clones of each other, which was very good up until the point when a bug came in and said, hey, all these potatoes are genetically identical, and was able to wipe out entire populations of potato crops. So there's always a danger that in your desire to make something more resistant, you create too much homogeneity in the population and actually make it more susceptible to infection.
Could there be any downsides here? Like, could mistakes be made? Oh, they put in the wrong gene in the wrong food. Like, I'm trying to think of any downsides that mean we should have some government intervention, government regulation when it comes to these foods.
Well, there's always a potential downside, but if you make a bad breed of potato, you're going to realize it very quickly. Like, the potatoes are not going to come after us, right? They're pretty immobile. So, like, any B-movie science fiction plot that you're worried about is probably not going to happen. The reality thing is that any potato crop that is not good, that has a downside to it, is going to so quickly become economically non-viable that nobody's going to buy it and nobody's going to plant it. And this is the real challenge of genetic engineering. It's not, can you make a potato plant that is more resistant to drought? It's, can you make a potato plant that is so much better than what exists currently on the market that people will pay a premium for it? Mm-hmm. And that's a much tougher nut to crack.
So much else we could discuss here, especially how, gene-edited foods can help with famine and in some of the poorest places of the world. But we do have to leave it there. Dr. Labos, always great talking to you. So much information. Come back soon, okay?
Alrighty.
That's Dr. Chris Labos, and you'll be able to catch him Sunday with Joanne Vrakas on her show at 7:20 a.m.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd,
and more. All your decade-defining favorites, all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.